Hey, this is NFL legend, two-time Super Bowl champion Gary Clark. You know what you got to tune into, right? You know what podcast is off the chain.
President Jason Wright, and you're listening to Burgundy Network Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Burgundy Network Podcast, part of the Believe Podcast Network. I am your host, Josh Taylor. Joining me is my guy, Brian Murphy. What's going on, Brian?
What's up, man? We're at the end of the preseason, ready to talk some real football. It feels good.
I know. And first off, we have to say this episode is brought to you by BetOnline, and I am praying that no one bet on Washington yesterday. And first off, don't bet on preseason because anything can happen. It's not real football. But we are 2 weeks away from real football. So I highly suggest everyone go over to BetOnline because it is the fastest and easiest way to place all of your sports betting needs, whether it's football, MLB, NBA, doesn't matter. I'm a sports betting guy. You best believe I got money on some college football this season. But guys, you get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you sign up for BetOnline. It doesn't get any better than that. No one else is doing that. It's 50% of free money regardless. So you can play. You can bet against teams. You can lose money. It's okay to lose sometimes because you can hedge it. Just bet the second half. Washington's a second half team unless Dustin Hopkins is kicking. I'm sure we'll talk about that too. But guys, head over to BetOnline and start playing today because like I said, we're 2 weeks away. Now, if you came here for a breakdown of the game last night, if that even was a game, you might want to log off because we're not going to be breaking down the game at all. We're going to be talking about things that we really feel like need to be talked about. Ron's plans, pretty much what I named this broadcast.
Love it.
So first off, we'll get the not really elephant out of the room, but the only news really today was Fitz was named quarterback one. Not shocking to anyone unless you have a Taylor Heineke jersey, would you say? Yeah,
absolutely. That was a given. You know, I guess it had to formally be said, but yeah, that was the plan all along, I think, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and he also said, like, he's our starter week one, and then someone kind of threw that nugget in there, like, going forward, too.
Yeah,
so I think we talked about it.
Maybe.
Yeah, we talked about how long of a leash, Fitzpatrick has. I think it's a pretty long leash, honestly. I don't see it being like, oh, he's throwing interceptions, we have to pull him, anything like that. Now, talking about starters. Yesterday, not a single starter played. And even a lot of depth pieces did not play yesterday. We're going to talk about that because I really thought about this, and there's a lot of ways you can really look at it. So Heineke didn't play, McKissick didn't play, Cam Sims, De'Ami Brown, Humphreys, Ioannidis, Smith Williams, St. Juice, Bobby McCain, even depth pieces. And these are all guys that we know are locks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this says Ron likes what he's seen in everything out of these guys so far. These are locks on the roster. We don't have to see anything else out of them. We're just getting ready for week one. These guys aren't fighting for a roster spot. So essentially in this game, you have Ron playing a full game with guys that are fighting for a spot, trying to separate themselves, or just aren't going to make this team. What did you first think when you saw that come out, that the Ravens ones are going to be going against Washington's twos and even threes?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I think that just based on the way that the first team offense had played, I thought that they might get a series or two. I wasn't expecting them to play like a full dress rehearsal, like whole half or anything, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't go out there and get some reps in. I only say that because now we go back a week to the last time that they played. So the next time that the first team offense is going to play a game is 3 weeks. There's a 3-week gap there. That's where I was kind of hoping that the starters would get some time. But, I mean, for me, it was all injuries and staying injury-free. And then when we see J.K. Dobbins go down, I mean, it's another reason where you're glad that Ron Rivera didn't start his guys. And I know that hindsight's 20/20, but, I was initially surprised that those guys didn't get out there just because of the long layoff. And, hopefully they don't come out rusty against Los Angeles. But you know what? Week one is all about shaking off the rust. So I bet you both teams are going to come out and Ron's way smarter than me at football, and he's probably thought all this through. But I was kind of surprised, not disappointed, but just kind of it's leaving me wanting a little bit more from the first team offense and kind of a question mark there.
Yeah, and you talk about the Chargers. And I want to bring that up because Herbert hasn't seen any action.
Right. Right.
He's got a new offensive coordinator, a lot of new things going on, and he's just going out there kind of for the first time week 1 when he does see Washington. So I want people to think about that too. And another thing I thought about was you mentioned, our offense is going to go 3 weeks. So say we play a quarter yesterday. We still have 2 weeks till week 1, right? How much of a difference is it that 1 week of saying like we could still be rusty because you don't have that 4th game. You just have that 3rd preseason game, right?
No, I'm with you, but I think more than, along with the rust, yes, you're absolutely right. 1 quarter is not going to make a huge difference, but seeing live bullets, live action, this is how a defense is going to react to, whatever formation. It gives you a little bit more to work with in practice. So I'm with you that 1 quarter or, 3 series isn't going to really help you shake off the rust, but I do think that there's something to be said about in-game action. And, I would have loved to have seen a few more snaps. Honestly, I would have loved to see more back in the game before that against the Bengals. I would have rather seen the starters play a lot more there. So, I mean, I feel like I want a little bit more from the first team offense. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more, and I would have felt better. But I'm with you. I'm right. You're absolutely right. 1 quarter in a meaningless preseason game where you got the doors blown off, you really isn't going to make a difference for gelling or anything like that.
And Ranger here brings up a good point. And Washington at 1 point was 3-point favorites. I just checked Vegas swing it to 1.5 point favorites with the Chargers. It is what it is. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of questions with them, especially Herbert, like I said, new offense. But my point that I want to bring up that you kind of talked about was Ron sees these guys every day in practice. Every day that they do practice, right? We as fans are saying, oh, we want to see more. We want to see more of the offense. I want touchdowns. I want to see success in the first team. Ron is seeing success every day at practice. Now, barring it is against each other, but this is a very good defense. But I think not playing your starters is a good thing, not even because of the injuries, because Ron is saying, hey, I've seen enough in practice and then our first 2 preseason games, whatever you did get out of that, to say that I don't need us to roll out in the 3rd game. I like what I've seen. I feel good rolling into week 1. I need to see who's fighting for a spot on this team left. And JP brought up a point saying that Ron said there was 4 spots open heading into the game yesterday, and now there's 6. So 2 guys might have lost their spots. I don't know how much you want to read into that, but just us as fans, yes, we want to see more. We want to see these Madden-like numbers. Like we want to see touchdowns and so on. But Ron is seeing this every single day in practice. I feel like if he didn't like what he was seeing, they absolutely would have played yesterday. So I think that's a good thing, saying, hey, we don't need to play Fitzpatrick and Terry, and Kurt Samuel doesn't need to rush back, like we can let him go. Same with Gibson. I'm fine with it. The more I thought about it, I'm like, 1 drive of real live action, if someone was to get hurt, it's a freak thing. But it happened. It just wasn't on our team, thankfully. Obviously, we want J.K. Dobbins to heal up because he's a dynamic running back. I love his game. But is it really worth that little bit of risk? I don't think it is. So even without the injuries, just Ron saying, hey, I think we look good enough to not play, I was all for it. Now, let's talk about the thing Ron did say about 6 spots open. Cuts are 2 days away, and we're going to talk about it Tuesday night with the roster cuts getting cut down to 53. How do you feel about that? Like Ron openly saying, hey, we have 6 open spots currently. 2 guys lost their jobs essentially yesterday.
Yeah, it is definitely curious, and you wish he would have just told you which position so we could at least end the speculation.
So played terrible, that spot's open.
Yeah, right. So, but you got to think that it's probably at some of those spots where we weren't really sure whether it be wide receiver, adding 1 more wide receiver versus not. Is there
O-line was a big one.
Yeah, O-line, linebackers, defensive backs. I mean, I think there's probably a few places where you could guess and pinpoint where that was coming from.
End.
Yeah. And
who's that 3rd tight end?
And sometimes, for me, it's kind of when I was kind of going through it was kind of a numbers game, not so much, I don't like this guy. It's like I like too many guys, which is a good problem to have. So, yeah, it is curious that he came out and said it. I don't know that many coaches are that open about the fact that, they have a certain number of spots available. And then to say that it maybe it's a good thing. Maybe two guys,
He's
really
calling
opened his
somebody out.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it could be negative that those two guys played awful, but it could be that two guys stepped up and, are making a case for themselves at the 11th hour. But yeah, I love the transparency. And I think I saw that Ron also was saying that he keeps an eye on everything going on. He hears, if a guy's interested, if a team is interested in one of their guys, and kind of watches the waiver wire, watches social media. So I love the honesty.
I thought that was interesting. No one says that.
Right. They love to say, I don't watch that, when 100% they do. And to come out and admit it is kind of refreshing, actually. So he went as far as to say is like which guys are on the bubble. But I love the honesty, and it'll be interesting to see. I think that come Tuesday, we'll probably be a little surprised with a move he makes here or there, because he let us know that there were some spots available. So I'm kind of itching to see what that roster looks like. And I don't know about you, but I think that there are going to be some names that aren't even on the roster right now that end up making the final 53.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that too. Maybe some additions. Right around this time is where you start seeing some trades too. Like I know the 49ers have been fielding offers for some of their depth guys that could start somewhere else. Like I guess it would be like realistically like our Tim Settle kind of players.
Right.
But talking about the extra 6 spots, I think maybe instead of going from 6 wide receivers, now he wants 7. I think that could be one of them. Like saying like, let's make a room for a Dax Milne, who I think makes the team. I feel really good about saying Dax Milne makes the team. Now, so I have Terry, Samuel, Diami, Humphreys, Cam, AGG slightly makes it just because he's just another big body guy. And like I said, I think Dax Milne makes it also. Then also, Torrey McTyer got hurt yesterday. So I don't know if that kind of hurts him. Not really sure where I was going with him yet. Didn't really see too much about it today. But
I think I saw concussion, right?
So you just don't really know what's going to happen with him yet. So maybe he was one of those spots. Maybe he had a spot, and now he might be one of those injury guys that might miss out, or, maybe you do keep Everett now over him, or you just don't know. It's really, you have to digest everything that Ron said,
right,
and kind of think about what all happened during the game. Same with linebackers, had a lot of depth issues. So maybe he's opening a spot to bring in a guy like a KJ Wright, which would be amazing, by the way.
Huge.
or another guy that gets cut Tuesday at the deadline, like a vet. So speaking of vets, Ron also mentioned he loves the edge guys. He loves what Shaka Toney and William Bradley King have been doing. Mentioned that Jason Smith-Williams has taken a huge step this offseason. Loves the depth, but he went out of his way to say, I really would like a vet there. Do you think we're going shopping a little bit? And do you think Ron at all regrets trading Ryan Kerrigan or no?
I feel like I don't think Ryan Kerrigan would ever be a headache, but I think that he felt like he probably needed a bigger role than he knew he was going to get here. And so I don't know that you want a guy there that, isn't sulking, but, there is some tension there when he thinks he should be on the field more. So I don't know that he's regretting it fully. Now, if it comes down to, Chase and Montez are gassed every fourth quarter because they don't have anybody to back them up, and it's showing on film and they're not able to get home at the end of the game, then yeah, I will say that losing Ryan Kerrigan was a big deal. But I do think that they are going to go looking for a guy. I think there are guys on the street or guys that are going to be cut in these next couple of days that could easily replace a guy like Casey Toohill, who I think is just going to kind of make the roster by default. I absolutely think you got to do your due diligence and go just kind of scan the waiver wire and see who's available, because I think you could definitely get a bigger contributor than what they have now. Now, I would love for Shaka Toney and William Bradley King to kind of step up, but they're young and they're just now getting it, and they're just now kind of figuring out what NFL offenses are about. So I don't know that they are ready, even if you wanted to, have them there as in those spots. So I think that fourth pass rusher, third pass, whatever number it is, I think is going to come from outside of the organization for sure.
Yeah, and I love Shaka Toney and I love William Bradley King. But if you watch that first game, they were gassed. Like their conditioning was terrible. And even Ron, it was either after the game or the next day, talked about it. He said, "Yeah, we got to get those young guys up to NFL speed because they were. I mean, you saw noticeably it was like round 5 of a UFC championship fight in the corner, just like give me some water. I need some ice, something to pull out the oxygen mask because they were hurting. But they're young. They're coming into it. The speed in the league's different. We hear it all the time. But I do agree with you. I'm looking at certain positions that we could upgrade. Do you think running back would be one? This is a hot take that I wanted to bring up without giving you any heads up. I want to see what you think off the fly. Do we keep 4 running backs? I'm not saying Jarrett Patterson wouldn't make it because I think he does. But do you think we keep 4 running backs and get rid of a Peyton Barber?
I think they keep 4. I think Peyton Barber's on it right now, but I absolutely think that they're going to be looking for somebody to replace that guy because I think you can find a more dynamic guy than Peyton Barber. And it's no offense to him. He really did his job last year, but there's got to be somebody better than that that can give you a little bit more than what he does. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I really think that, Gibson, McKissick, and Patterson are your 3 contributors, and then to have a 4th guy that could be, whether it's short yardage or another pass catcher, I don't know. But yeah, Peyton Barber, I mean, we talked about it all last season. Thank you for thank you. But I mean, I think that there's somebody better out there for sure. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But for whatever reason, it seems like this coaching staff really loves him. And so I'm not going to be shocked either way if he makes it or doesn't, just because he's been around this long. But to me, there's got to be somebody, right? There's got to be somebody that could do that just as well, if not better.
Is Peyton Barber the Samaje Perine of Ron Rivera?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, right? I mean, Jay, for whatever reason, loves Samaje Perine and would bring him up out of nowhere. And it kind of seems like maybe Ron's not there yet, bringing him up out of nowhere, but he definitely keeps him around.
He's mentioned him a couple times in camp. He's like, oh, yeah, he lost weight. He looks good. And you're like, come on, Ron.
Yeah, I mean,
give me something.
Here's the same side of the coin as Troy Apke. They seem to love this guy, and I don't get it. I really do not get it. And I think that he's going to make the 53 because they love him so much, but I don't get it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, when you move a guy to corner just to see what's there, it's kind of like hey, we're trying to help you out any way we can, man. Like, we're pulling for you. I'm not, but I'm speaking for Ron. And we're pulling for you. And he moved him to corner. They said he looked good at corner too.
And I get the importance of special teams. Like, I really do. I'm not trying to disregard that side of the football, but if that's the only thing you're good at and you can't step in a pinch, and maybe he has improved at corner, but I think he got beat on a touchdown yesterday. I mean, to me, it's like being like in baseball, being a really good bunter. Like, that's fine. That's great in certain situations, but it's not going to help the team all that much. There's got to be a guy that can also square up and hit a fastball. I mean, it's another example of, and maybe they love his leadership or love his work ethic, and that's the difference. But to me, it's like Peyton Barber. There's got to be a guy that can do what Troy Apke does and do it probably a little bit better.
I agree. It's really hard. That DB room is really hard to decipher. Like I've been saying ever since we talked to Lake, I think DeShazer Everett is the guy that gets cut, even though he is the vet. And I kind of want to talk about that too, is how much does Ron really look at vets for this team? Being Everett is a vet, but he has that injury history. And I've said it over and over again. If you're hurt, you're not helping the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're both kind of on the same page with DeShazer Everett getting, being the odd guy out, being that vet cut.
Well, yeah, I'll take it a step further. I think either him or Jeremy Reeves makes it. I don't think both of them make it. I think that they kind of serve
I'd rather
the same.
have Reeves too.
Yeah, I think they kind of serve the same purpose. And another guy that Ron has praised is Jeremy Reeves. I think it's going to be really tough on Ron. I think he likes a lot of these guys. And listen, this is all a good problem to have. These are not problems that previous regimes have had in Washington for a while, having too many guys that could be potentially contributors. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Shea's just the best ability is availability. And if you're banged up all the time, that's not good for you. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with, like that fifth safety or that fifth corner, sixth safety, whatever it may be. That's where the tough decisions are going to come in. And honestly, I wonder, if that's one of the spots where Ron was like, maybe we've got an issue there, or maybe there's a guy that's just stepped up out of nowhere to claim one of those spots. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, like you said, we haven't really had that in the past. When you're cutting a guy that's depth that gets picked up by the Buffalo Bills like 2 or 3 days later, like Steven Sims, we haven't had that before.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have more of that. These guys that could play in other teams, that's just how we're building the team right now, though.
And a tweet I wanted to bring up, the Tay and Todd podcast, they do such great stuff. A tweet that they tweeted out was last year Kyle Allen was throwing the ball to AGG in a regular season game as starters. This year he's throwing to him in the third preseason game with the third string unit. That speaks to what Ron has done with this roster. The fact that guys that were key contributors in the last couple of years are now on other teams or now are afterthoughts for this roster is huge. And it makes me, for as much as nerves as I have about the first team offense, it makes me feel really good that they've really addressed it. And there are examples where guys that were probably considered locks and future contributors are kind of fringe guys on this roster.
Yeah. And going back to the game, it's not a bad thing to have your depth pieces that might have to come in emergency situations. This is Washington. Injuries do happen. Having them go against ones or even twos of Baltimore, that's great experience. That's good reps for some of these other young guys like we talked about that came in, or guys like AGG that might be more of like the depth piece this year. It's good reps. I would take that all day long. Like I said, it's not a bad problem to have it all. I would much rather that than just have them going against threes and guys are going to get cut all season long. And then say they come in. Someone else said it on Twitter too. Like we bashed like how someone performs on a team of all threes against teams of, twos, threes, whatever it is. But realistically, if someone gets hurt and you come in as a depth piece and you're like the backup or the third string, you're playing with the rest starters. You're not on that same team of all backups. Like, you see what I'm saying?
They're going to cover some of your weaknesses.
Exactly. It's a better team. I forgot who said that on Twitter. Forgive me, but I saw that last night and I was like, that's a really good point to bring up. Like you can bash, someone, but when they come in the game, it's not like that at all. So
and you're totally right. The fact that these guys are getting some reps against legit guys, you want as many guys on your roster that have experience. You'd rather have guys that played a little bit in preseason or were, backup guys somewhere else than having a rookie that's never played before ever. So you're absolutely right. Some of those fringe depth pieces need to have some live bullets. And so maybe it is a good thing that they got a little bit more run than the starters because they could use the in-game reps that they don't normally get.
Now, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I want to catch you off guard once again. I want to ask you a little bit of a game, like a podcast, making the team, roster cut, franchise tag. If you could place like a safe tag on one player to not get cut on offense and defense, who are you picking?
Ooh.
I'll go first. My offense is Dax Milne. He's my safe tag.
I think I would say Jarrett Patterson, but I think he's locked himself in to where I don't need to throw it on him. So I'm going to say Samus Reyes. I really think that he needs to stay on this team, work through his inexperience, and go from there. So I'm going to make sure he's safe.
I feel like he'd be a guy that got picked up pretty quick by.
I do too. I just think he's a freak of nature, and that there were people. It seemed like there were teams that were already looking out for him before Washington was able to get him. So I want him safe and sound. Yeah,
he picked us. That never happens. You got to keep this guy.
Yeah,
he will be here. But yeah, he's like that Mo Alley Cox, like former basketball player who Mo Alley Cox turned into a pretty dang good and serviceable tight end, by the way. I would say on defense, I really do like Torrey McTyer. And like I said, it really depends on like what's going on with his injury. We haven't really heard too much about it, but I really want him to stay on this team. There's just something about that feisty corner who's been, going after the ball every single day. And after I saw him go against T. Higgins from Cincinnati, I was like, all right, this guy's the truth. Like he's going against top young wide receivers. He's not afraid of anything, and he's getting interceptions. If you can get turnovers, you have a spot on this team. So who would your defensive guy be?
My defensive guy. I just want to see Derek Forrest make the team, make the initial 53. I think that
that was a good pop he had too. That one hit at the goal line. That was not dirty, by the way. Like that was all shoulder.
And I think that going back to DeShazer Everett, I think he could be a younger, new version of DeShazer Everett. He's going to cut his teeth on special teams. If he gets the chance to play, we see he's not afraid to go pop somebody. So I hope he makes it. I think that would be a great story. And to see him out there. And, I think, like I said, I think he's going to be a huge special teams contributor. But to make that, initial 53 has got to feel pretty good. And I think that would be a feel-good story.
Yeah, I think this would be the first time in a while, I think, that all the guys from the draft, and like it's really close with Dax Milne. He might not make the team, but I really do believe they're going to keep him because he's been doing punt returns, kick returns. He's looked great receiving the ball. There was a screen yesterday. He's doing everything you need him to do. Like, I think he was such an upgrade from Steven Sims, say what you want, but he had the better hands. And I think he's shown that over and over again. I think that's what's separating him and why Steven Sims got cut. I think Dax Milne was the exact reason why we were okay sending Steven Sims to Buffalo.
Do you think that Dax Milne stops DeAndre Carter from getting a spot?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I haven't seen like Dax Milne run the ball, and we've seen that like twice. I seen it in practice, like at training camp. DeAndre Carter did like a sweep and a couple end arounds, nothing crazy. But I think what you could do with Carter, you can do with Milne just the same. I think they're ideally like the three same, like we talked about AJG, Harmon, Cam Sims being the same wide receivers. I think the same could go with Carter and Milne. Now, obviously, Carter has the special teams experience that Dax Milne doesn't have yet. But they're clearly working him in there, and he looks like a natural. Like, I don't think he did much of that at BYU, returning kicks and punts like that. He might have. I didn't watch them return punts. But I think what he's done in practice and in preseason, he's doing exactly what you need to do on the punt return. Just run straight. Don't try to get too fancy with it. Run backwards. You're not Devin Hester. Just go forward and get the best field position possible, and he's done that. But I haven't seen him drop a single ball to where it's like, oh, Dax Milne should have had that. Like he catches everything.
Yeah.
So that's the room I'm looking at closely. Like, it does AGG. That would be a surprise cut, AGG, just because he was drafted by Ron so high. The 4th round, and it was last year. Say what you want. He was hurt. He had COVID. There was no off season, no mini camps, nothing really to go off of. So like for me, that would be the biggest surprise cut on offense. But,
and I think that he's improved. And I think we've seen improvements, even week to week in the
strides, but he's getting it.
Yeah. Even, dropping the 2-point conversion, he comes back and snags one away the next game. Like, it's good to see improvements.
He did the Allen Iverson, step over.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. That's what I want to see, but I want to see more physical mossing guys like in route, like long pass AGG. I just want to see Liberty AGG come out, which might be too much to ask for. But so just to recap, don't freak out about the preseason. Like, remember, the Lions went 4-0 and then they went 0-16 in the regular season. The preseason record score, if you're keeping score, like, don't just throw away everything that you have because it means nothing. I firmly trust what Ron's season, camp and practice. I have no concerns about week 1. Like, am I nervous? Heck yeah, I'm nervous for every single game. Yeah. Like, I was nervous for the preseason games just because it was the first time, seeing the guys out there. You don't want people to get hurt. I'm just ready for week 1. Like, we're 2 weeks away. And obviously we'll do a little preview show. Well, do the build-up hype. You'll be there. I'll be there. I think everyone's going to be there week 1. But just real quick, looking at what you've seen so far and then what you've seen out of the Chargers, do you think it's as close as a matchup? Like, do you think that's probably like the closest game of the season, really? Like, I think it is. It's very evenly matched.
I think that the Chargers, I think that they probably finished like 7-9, something around there. They were about the same record-wise.
They just blew a lot of games late. They could have won so many more games. They were so much better than their record last year. And Herbert broke every record possible for rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're kind of like Washington, the fact that they've got a couple of young pieces on both sides of the ball that you really feel are going to do something special, not just be like decent, but be like really, really good. And I think it's a great test to start off the year. We talked about Washington facing some big time quarterbacks, and Herbert's going to be there. If he's not already there from what he showed his rookie year. So I love it a lot. I love that their offense is going to be a great challenge for the defense. And, they got some playmakers on that defensive side that the offense has got to be ready for. So, it'll be a lot of fun. And I think that they're going to both be teams that are going to be fighting for the playoffs, towards the end of the year. And honestly, this week 1 game, I'm not going to say it's a must win or you got to have it, but both teams could be looking back at that game as, that extra win that got us over, that extra loss that kept us out. So I love it. Cross conference matchup. It's a pretty fun way to start the year. And, man, it should be some fireworks for sure.
Yeah. And it's good that, the Chargers are so far away because we can't expect so many fans to travel.
Yeah.
Like if I see a lot of powder blue jerseys, I'm going to be greatly concerned.
Yeah. Real quick. So I want to ask you a question back to the roster real fast. So over under 1.5 guys that are not on this roster will be signed to the 53. So traded, signed from other teams. Do you think they get over under 1.5 players?
And they kind of asked Ron today about like trades and he said like around this time it's kind of like a normal thing. Mm-hmm. Teams are calling, we're calling teams about stuff. I mean, ideally we've been calling teams since February. Right. But I think with our depth pieces, like it wouldn't surprise me if we did trade like a linebacker and traded like a depth piece or a DB. I mean, injuries are happening. It's, who was it? The Jets. They lost somebody. They just signed Shaq Lawson. Like this is the time when people are like, all right, we got to, recover. Same with the Rams signing or trading for Sony Michel. Like stuff like that's happening right now. So I don't know who. Like, could I see like a Tim Settle or something like that? Yeah. Yeah. Just because he is that good. That would suck. I don't think it'll happen, but I think it's going to be a player like that. I think we sign someone that gets cut before we trade for a guy.
I think so too.
I think, and I don't know why no one has gotten KJ Wright yet. It blows my mind. He's a top 100 player. Like the injuries in the past and stuff like that, but like you got to take the chance on the guy. Like,
it seems like a reunion with Seattle would make a lot of sense, but it's still weird that hasn't happened.
Yeah. And like to me, I want Clay Hudson to hurry up and come on, but I don't think we have enough time for that. So then it gets kind of the thing of like, where do you play KJ Wright? Where do you play Cole Holcomb? Like, do you switch? Do you feel comfortable with that move? I don't know. Like maybe him and Cole would kind of be fighting for the same spot on the Sam linebacker spot. So, but I think we do sign a guy that gets cut. So don't be surprised, but roster cuts, 4 p.m. deadline on Tuesday. Obviously, we're going to be talking about it. It's a lot of guys getting cut. Like the last few cuts, it's been like, oh, okay, we cut like 4 guys I've never heard of.
Because we're at 80 right now, right? So we got to drop 27 guys.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot.
It's tough. It's the life in the NFL, but a lot of those. hopefully, some of those guys come back to the practice squad. But I don't want to be in that decision. I'd rather talk about it afterwards than have to make those decisions.
And another thing, like we played Saturday, so like Ron had ideally an extra day to think about it. You never know; it could come into play.
I wonder if a couple of teams will get some cuts out of the way tomorrow, or if they announce it all. It'll be interesting to see. That's a long time.
Look, I guarantee you that whoever we talk about the most on this episode will be cut 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Right. Daxon will be cut
This will be out of date by the time we post it.
Exactly. That's how it always happens. But, guys, like I said, 4 p.m. Tuesday deadline for players getting cut. Ron's got a lot of work to do, so don't be tweeting at him about gloves and all that nonsense on Twitter. Let my guy live and just coach this team. But we're definitely going to be talking about it and going live once again Tuesday night. What time? Like 8:30, 9 o'clock?
Whatever works. That's whatever. Perfect.
When you see us go live, just put Twitter notifications on for the podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
It'll come on. But we'll be back Tuesday night to talk about it. Like I said, guys, this podcast, as always, is presented by BetOnline. So go ahead, get those bets in. Washington's winning the NFC East. No doubt about it, right?
I'd love that. Yeah, I wish it was that easy.
Me too. But 8.5 wins is the under-over. Hammer that all day.
Yeah.
8.5 wins. We got an extra game too to play with. So I think we go over 8.5. But guys, we will see y'all Tuesday. It's time to cut down to 53.